Hey guys, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to talk about the Sony A7S. Now, this is just my thoughts, my opinion. Of course, your opinion is going to vary. Other reviewers' opinion is also going to vary. And I also haven't had this camera for very long, so take everything I have. Just know that it's just my opinion. I've had this camera for about a week. It's actually a rental. I had a couple projects coming up and I wanted to experiment with this camera and make a couple of videos for you guys. I've been very excited since this camera was announced. Once I saw that elevator footage of that low light where it practically sees in the dark, I was just like, wow, that's amazing. Maybe I'm gonna have to switch from my GH4 to this. Now, this camera has caused a lot of confusion and uncertainty to a lot of different people just because of that amazing low light performance. Should they get a Canon that they were gonna upgrade to, let's say from the crop sensor to full frame? Should they go with the new GH4? Should they go with something else, or should they now go with this? The low light is absolutely amazing. I'm not going to go into too much detail about that. It's just nothing else touches it. Now, I was a person that always wanted to know, how's the low light in this camera? A new camera would come out. The first question I would have is, how is the low light? How does it compare with this? At this point, after messing around with this camera, after we have a camera that's absolutely insane in low light, I don't feel like I have that kind of need for low light, low light, low light. The GH4 isn't amazing. With the speed booster, it definitely helps, and I'm happy with how it is. Would I want something better? Yes. Can I live with the GH4? Yes. Do I value other features more than low light now? Yeah, I think I do. That's why I want to talk about this camera and mainly kind of the upsides and the downsides of the camera. Now, I'm going to just go into low light really quick. I'll show you a clip here. Now, I actually have this clip separately that I upload to YouTube so you guys can check out the full-length version, but it's just me coming home at night. This is my motorcycle, and I was shooting this footage with the 55 1.8 lens, handheld, and this is 80,000 ISO. It looks very nicely exposed. There is noise there, but I didn't put a denoise filter. I didn't do image stabilization, anything like that. It looks really, really nice for something that's 80,000 ISO. I would never think in my life that I would use 80,000 ISO. On the 5D Mark II, I was scared to go above 2,000. I really wouldn't do it, even though that was known for good light. Now, if I switch this over to 1600 ISO, this is what I actually saw in real life. It's almost a pitch black image, so this is kind of what this camera does. There's tons of other videos out there on this camera, on different example clips, a lot more detail about that, so definitely go check those out as well. Don't just take my opinion on it. Go check out Philip Bloom's review. He did a fantastic job on that, lots of details. Definitely check that out. I'm going to give him like a little bit of rep in this video. So I want to talk about controls. This is a full frame camera, obviously, huge sensor in here. And what Sony did is put it into a really small body, just like their A7S, A7R and A7 camera. Now this has 12.2 megapixels, which is enough for stills. I know some people are now used to the 36 megapixel sensors and they want all that resolution. 12 megapixels, 12.2 is enough for stills, definitely. It's not enough if you're going to crop, but for even wedding photography, anything, it's enough, and this camera is definitely capable for those purposes. So if you want something that's amazing low light, takes pictures, really nice pictures, it's going to do the job. But since it has such a small body, there are some downsides, and a couple of really big downsides specifically on this camera for me. Now, the camera is fairly kind of comfortable in your hand. It's not horrible, but the GH4 definitely feels better. A full-size DSLR type setup does fill my hand at least more nicely. It's more comfortable and I have better access to the buttons. Now, this camera does have a lot of different function buttons, different setups. You have your scroll wheels, everything like that is nice. You have your headphone jack, microphone jack, you have all that nice stuff. You do have a tilt display, which is not as good as a swivel on the GH4, but I'm not going to complain because if you look at the Canon full frame cameras or the Nikons, they don't even have this. So it's definitely nice to have. You do have a very nice EVF. Now, this is like the best EVF that I've ever used. Definitely better than the GH4, better than the FZ1000, better than some Olympus cameras that I've tried out. The EVF is really nice in here. The downsides about this whole setup is, one, the power, not the power button, the play button on here, absolutely ridiculous place that they set it up right here. When you guys see, it's on the grip there, so you have to kind of take your hand off of it to even press it. I don't know why they did that. They could have put it somewhere else. You can't, at this time, you can't remap it to another position. So I don't know how they could have done that. This camera is made kind of with the focus for video shooters, so it's almost, you know, you can't really forgive them for something like that. I don't know, maybe they have a really good reason for it. I can't even think of one that they could have. Now, the other huge downside for me, having such a small body, the one thing that you can't do is you can't have a nice larger battery. Now, this is definitely smaller than the GH4 battery, but the camera also, I don't think it's as efficient as the GH4. This was one of the biggest letdowns for me, is the battery life. You know, it would last, I wouldn't even say it would last an hour. So definitely, if you're going to pick up one of these cameras, get multiple batteries. This reminds me of my EOS M camera that I had, you know, where I'd have a ton of extra batteries, or maybe the Blackmagic Cinema camera, which I didn't own, but I know for those you'd have to have a bunch of batteries. The battery life is not very good, you know, compared to one battery on my GH4, which it lasts me for 4 hours or more. This thing, you know, you'll get just under an hour, I would say. So that's something that maybe Sony can improve on, the efficiency. Maybe that full frame sensor just needs a lot more juice, you know, that could be it. But, you know, stock up on the batteries. You're going to have to be switching those out fairly often. Now, another thing you're going to have to deal with is the lack of native lenses and the lack of speed for those lenses. Now, I'm talking about this is a 35 millimeter and it's a f2.8. You do have the 55 f1.8, which is nice. You also have, in the zooms, you have one that's variable zoom, the kit kind of lens that comes, and you have a f4 zoom as well. So there's not too much options. They do have an adapter so you can use other Sony lenses. There you can use the kind of Metabones adapter to use Canon lenses, but then you have to go into the crop sensor mode there. But, you know, it would be nice, and maybe this is going to come in the future, to have something that is kind of larger lenses but faster. For example, this 35 millimeter f2.8, you know, I would have liked to have it a little bit larger but a little bit faster. I know they're trying to keep this really small compact size, but for the people that want that extra kind of extra speed, you know, you want shallower depth of field, especially on the 35, that kind of would be nice. So definitely another downside compared to like Micro Four Thirds or some other camera is the actual lack of, you know, a wide variety of native lenses for the camera. Now, the last thing I want to go into, and kind of the biggest downside, the biggest reason why I'm not going to be buying an A7S, is the shutter roll and the lack of 4K. Now, I'll just touch 4K because it's not a huge deal, but given that the GH4 gives you internal 4K recording, I'm just kind of spoiled by that, and it's a feature that I really want before I'm going to be switching over to any other camera or any other platform. You know, the image still looks absolutely really, you know, looks really nice, looks very sharp, looks better than what I've seen from a 5D Mark III, definitely better than other 1080p footage that I have seen. But still, it's not 4K. You know, once you've seen all that extra detail, you know, it's hard to go back. It's almost like going from VHS to DVD or from DVD to Blu-ray. You know, it is kind of that one major step forward. And the other huge kind of downside of not having 4K, I'll mention that here in a second. Kind of downside of not having 4K, upside of having 4K on here is you can crop in, like, okay, I'll just crop in right there. Hopefully I'm in focus properly because I'm moving back and forth. But with 4K, you can crop in, you know, 4 times and still get a 1080p image. So, you know, that's so helpful if you're doing an interview, if you want to change, you know, get 2 cameras almost out of 1 camera. That's really nice. If you want to stabilize and post and not lose detail, it's very nice. If you want to downscale, it's very nice. You know, Sony is advertising 4K with this camera, but you have to use an external recorder, which most people aren't going to have, at least people in my budget. They're not going to have that. I would rather go with the GH4 and have that internally. The pro guys that want the super low light are going to get some options coming out soon, but it's not having that internal 4K, which is an upside. Not a killer. You know, I still a lot of times don't deliver in 4K. For YouTube, I still have some videos in 4K. But, you know, you want that ability kind of to use it if you want it, and I use it all the time. And also, if you're doing stuff for clients, you can upsell that 4K footage and have it be more future-proof at the same time. The other thing is the shutter roll that I mentioned. Here is a clip of me just doing a quick test right here on my desk. The GH4 is in 4K mode, which has more shutter roll than you have if you're shooting in the 1080p mode. If you take a look, the Sony is just much worse. I know people have said this is, one of the worst cameras as far as shutter roll. It just takes a generation back. The sensor takes a generation forward as far as low light. Shutter roll goes a generation back. This is something that I can't really live with. Just the work that I do with mainly weddings, there's a lot of times where there's motion involved. The bride and groom are walking, bride is walking down the aisle. There's a lot of different things like that, dancing. You want to be able to move the camera around and not have your bride bending, sideways or anything like that. I mean, it's not horrible like that, but you definitely have to watch it way more and just be way more careful. If you do just mainly interviews, if you do kind of something where you have static shots, you're not going to have to worry about that. But for a lot of other people, if you want a camera that's flexible, where you can do action type footage, you could do, just a lot of different things and not be more limited in that way. The GH4 is a nicer option. I know I keep going back to the GH4. It's because I love the camera. I have it. I may be slightly biased. I'm just letting you guys know. But that's something that is a definite downside of this camera. So kind of just my final thoughts on it. It's fantastic. The low light is amazing. The controls are decent. The battery life is not good. This 35 has this really weird lens hood that keeps popping off for no reason. Actually, I'm going to mention to you guys, check out, I'm going to have a couple other videos on these lenses, just talking about the lenses themselves. You don't have a lot of lens options. I already mentioned the battery life is not very good. The shutter roll is an issue. So kind of what I think is this is a half generational product. What I mean is they made an awesome sensor. The low light is absolutely fantastic. They added in, peaking. You have focus peaking. You have zebras. You have a lot of like kind of nice video options to use. They made a nice camera, but I think it's a half camera. I think this is a product that they put together, definitely got a lot of attention, and now they're just waiting for step number 2 is to optimize the camera, fix that shutter roll, hopefully get some better battery life, optimize the button layout, and fix those kind of things, get some more lenses out there and offer up the A7S II. Now where I'm going with this, kind of my thought is I'm not going to buy this camera, but if Sony were to fix that, and I think they're going to definitely do it, getting all that attention, I think they're in the prime spot to update that and put out an A7S II or whatever they're going to call it. That is going to be the camera that you would want to get. Some more options, fix shutter roll, fix some of those other issues, and you got yourself a winner. So that's the end of my review, guys. Hopefully it was at least entertaining. I know it wasn't super detailed. I didn't go into a lot of things, but it's a fantastic camera. If it works for you, if you can work with those limitations, awesome, absolutely great. If you don't need the 4K, if you do, there's some other cameras that have some other features, definitely the GH4, that are really nice. If you don't need super low light, look at those other options. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoy this video at all. I will have a link in the description to this camera if you guys enjoy my channel, enjoy checking out the different content that I make. You guys can use those links and I get a little bit of a kickback for that, and you guys can support the channel in that way. So just to say kind of my conclusion or my finishing sentence, let me know what you guys think about this. How big of a deal is shutter roll for you guys? How big of a deal is battery life for you guys? I didn't think battery life was a huge deal with the other cameras. Now that I'm spoiled with 4-hour battery life, battery life is a major thing for me. So let me know what you guys think. Do you guys like one of these cameras? If you picked it up, what are your thoughts? How does it compare to your other things? I'd like to, hear your guys' opinion. Just because I haven't had this camera for too long. Like I said, I've had it for about a week. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you later. Bye.